A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzong, and it's been a while. I had my goons complete on this.
Yes, indeed, Jeffrey. Surprises are for first days of the month and first days of the week. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. And welcome to Clergy.
So I'm the surprise.
Yes, you are the surprise.
Well, it's a month of surprises, right? It's
Indeed.
Christmas, and there's going to be a lot of festivities, hopefully. But good morning. It is great to be back. It's been a while I heard that term, goons.
Yeah, you know, I was just processing it. I said the last time three of us were complete, maybe about 2 months ago.
Or a little more.
Yes, about more than that, because Clergy traveled, I came back, I traveled, you came back, you traveled, everybody's like...
It's for the good of the nation.
No more traveling for now,
as we can say.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
No more traveling. But it's for the good of the work we do.
Yeah.
They just expand the capacity and do the work we do the best way we can. So, guys, what's been going on?
I should be asking you guys.
Yeah, you should be asking us.
There's a long list of things I'm like, this is happening, this is happening, this happened.
It's
sure,
difficult to catch up.
Quite a lot of them are events that you cannot ignore. So we may not be updating you. we may just be having a discussion.
It's hard to miss those things.
Yeah.
It is hard to miss them. Even for those outside the country, even for nations that do not really have anything to do with Nigeria. It's almost like Nigeria is hogging the headlines, not just nationally or in Nigeria or Africa, but globally.
Indeed.
So it's hard to ignore, honestly. Now that Nigeria is on the news, I really hope that we use all of that attention, that drive, that energy to make Nigeria the Nigeria we all desire. I think now is a good chance to do that.
Yeah, I hope the people in authority will see that the way you are seeing it. I mean, when I say the people in authority, now everyone who is elected at every level sees this as an opportunity to recalibrate, reposition, reorganize our country. It's unfortunate that we waited to be given that spark for us to do what we naturally should have been doing. What happened at the Senate the Congress subcommittee in the United States Congress should have been what would have been happening in our National Assembly. It's like they just pig it back on what happened there to do what it is they are doing today in terms of their resolutions and actions and all of that. But as we've always argued, whether it's the complexity of the Hydra-headed situation we find ourselves, the most important thing is that we just want these killings to stop. I think that's the most important thing. We just want these killings to stop. It's becoming one too many. It's becoming too depressing. Nigerians are too traumatized to be enduring this. So all of this argument is your people are killed more than my people. There's no genocide, no genocide. I think is irrelevant right now. When everything stops, that conversation will be sorted. But like we argue to some of them is in trying to resolve, because there cannot be justice without healing, in trying to resolve this problem, don't deny people's reality. Do not do that, because when you do that, you are building up pent-up anger. So if there are 5 things that are causing the problem, now, because of political sensitivity and to be politically correct, or for invasion to be avoided of the United States, you now want to deny 1 of 5. That's not fair. Except what happened, if there's a Christian genocide, if there's an Islamic genocide, if it's driven by Islamic jihadists, point these things out and then go after it, address it. But denying its existence, we're going to go back to this cycle. I was watching Dino Milai the other day. A feed came up when he was in the Senate. And if they play that thing right here, right now, you think it's happening right now.
Yeah.
So I felt like, okay, I think we've been here over and over again. Yeah.
Feels like deja vu, right? And, you said do not deny people's reality. I wonder if, the second or yet another church attack in Kogi State yesterday reinforces the reality of Christians in Nigeria, many of whom have doubled down on the United States concern that indeed they're being targeted. A pastor, his wife, and an undetermined number of church members were abducted yet again yesterday in Kogi State. Of course, the Kogi State government has been speaking on measures, but how far does that go? Clergy, you were talking about how we should drive this, global attention for positive measure on our part. But how well are we doing that? we could talk about the number of attacks that we have seen so far. One person that disagrees with that is the pastor of Citadel Church who was speaking yesterday, and he said it's quite shameful that it's the U.S. Congress that is taking action concerning the trauma of people right here in our own country. Where are the lawmakers? And we've asked, those questions time and again about the number of security summits that have been carried out, in the last parliaments before this one. Why didn't those ones make any difference? Why is it that it is always when the elected are under pressure that they act? Why do we have a reactionary approach to issues of great concern? This time, emergencies where Nigerians are being killed. So these really are the issues, and if we continue the reactionary approach, then there is no clear direction about where we're headed. Speaking of where we're headed, what is the difference that the security emergency will make in the reality of Nigerians in the coming days? Who really are these people, these non-state actors? Why is the government negotiating with them, as it's being strongly insinuated by Nigerians following the release of the abductees, either it's from Kwara or the Kebbi girls, or the ones that were released recently in Borno State? What gave? So where are we going exactly if negotiations are ongoing? If it seems as if government knows the location or the identities of these individuals, are we resigned to the fate of having non-state actors permanently hovering around Nigeria's forest areas and borders? We will continue to ask these questions and demand accountability of the federal government. Speaking of answers, critical answers that may be coming through on the program today, we'll stay with the subject of security because it really does affect every Nigerian. You were talking about trauma, Jeffrey, moments ago. I read a report last week about a Nigerian who sold his house for 60 million naira and relocated to a one-room apartment in the United Kingdom with his family. Now, just try that on for sides.
I think that's a story about trauma.
Kyle is the one who studies psychology, so he has a better understanding of.
No, I think Nigerians have been doing that for a while now. It's the jackpot thing. Once you're planning to move, you sell a lot of your things. I think now the pressure is even more. For a lot of people who never thought of moving out of the country, I can tell you that for the past 1 month plus, they have been considering it actively, even making moves. And I think it's, again, a pointer to why this needs to be fixed right now. We can go on and on about the challenges, which we'll definitely look at in an analytical way, in a much more clinical way. But we're going to look at how the dailies are reporting all of these stories. But first, a lineup of the talking points on the show today.
Absolutely. So security is going to be our first conversation today on the program. Yet again, whilst we're still trying to get around this, it's happening yet again. Reverend Ezekiel Dachoma and a security expert should be joining us on the program. Let's x-ray what is going on, because it looks like every other day there is some form of abduction or the other in parts of the country. What do we do? Where do we go? Is the effort yielding any result? That's going to be part of the conversation. And from there, we'll move on to the controversial ambassadorial nominees list that has been released by President Bola Tinubu and forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration for confirmation. So there are names on that list that are making Nigerians squirm on their chair and saying, what in the world is going on? Well, we'll break it down today on the program. And of course, the federal government will be responding at some point. So we're going to get the analysts and ambassador and the opposition, as well as someone from the federal government will also be, giving defense, if you will, to why the president chose the set of people he chose to be nominated. Kyle, when you saw that list, how did you feel?
I saw the list and I thought, okay, this is why we've been waiting for this long, on the one hand. Secondly, you understand that, for the career and non-career, the criteria are different in a lot of sense. And I know that this is a country's image at stake. Sometimes you always wonder what was going through the mind of the president, his advisors, when they made these decisions. Did they think, oh, we'll make whatever decisions we want to make, and Nigerians will take it? Or they always think, what would Nigerians think about this? That is one question that really stresses me a lot. Do people in government actually reflect and say, what do the people want? Because governance is almost like a product. You know, for those who manufacture things, you say, let's design this product in such a way that it meets the yearnings of the people so we can make profit. So I always wonder, does the government think that way? But hey, let us know what you think. We're going to be asking those questions this morning. But Jeffrey, that list is a list.
That's loaded, Cardi.
I looked at the list. I was just smiling. I said, okay, there is political consideration, people of questionable character, people that should never near public service, as far as some of us are concerned on that list. You know me, I don't hide my mouth on this one. I will even call their name if there was time. But there's a politics the president has played that I think people should look at. The politics of national unity. We see PDP members on that list. I think we should not lose sight of that.
Are you talking about
I saw at least 3 PDP members.
Former G5 members.
So it's a bipartisan
Former
list.
G5 members who had no electoral value to the president in the last election and would not have in the 2027 election.
They did,
Former
actually.
G5 members,
No, because the
deliver?
president lost woefully in the states where they were governors.
No, the electoral value they had was the fact that they were a part of that G5. That alone is
Okay,
enough.
where were they?
Beyond the electoral value, I think we should not lose sight of, you know, the objective of the conversation as far as the ambassadorial nominees are concerned. Beyond the electoral value, did they deliver on their own primary responsibilities?
No, that's
as elected,
yes.
who were responsible to the people. And that's what I think we should be relating to the objective of appointing ambassadorial nominees. People who reflect Nigeria's culture, who reflect Nigeria's values, who will tell the international community that this is who we are. And the international community is not foolish. They have, you know, people who would carry out research on their behalf, and they're still going to, you know, approve, you know, underscore the appointments through the agreement letters that will come after this, you know, appointment. So I'm wondering what they're going to say about the category of people that Mr. President has
I totally agree with you. Before bringing Mr. Adaya, what I'm saying is that when you're doing this, and you have to look at politics, you have to look at competence, you have to look at character. So when we discuss with the analysts, we'll be able to x-ray all of these issues and bring it to the fore. But the most important thing is that the president can choose to do whatever he wants to do. It is now to the National Assembly, I call it Akpabio Senate, to decide on what Nigerians want from them. So it's okay for the president to appoint anybody he wants to appoint, whether of questionable character or not. That is his presidency. He has a power according to Section 171 of the Constitution. But he has to present it to the people's house. Now the people are shouting, this person is not like this. Would the people, this Senate, would they do?
The APC's majority in the Senate. I'm not sure if you're just saying this, Jeffrey, just to give some ray of hope. Forget it. The moment these names were thought of and put on that list,
it's over.
Except there's overwhelming opposition against this.
Let's not paint the entire, you know,
I know
characters
Senator
on that list with the same brush. There are people
of course,
integrity on the list. But we're not going to you know, begin to analyze one person after the other. We'll have, you know, our guests today do that. And of course, Nigerians can go ahead and carry out their own research about these individuals and make up their minds for themselves as well. But the objective of appointments of ambassadorial nominees, career and non-career, is to reflect Nigeria's culture and values. I think that is the most significant point about the conversation.
All right, let's bring in our guest. Nat'l Akintobi is a public affairs analyst and a journalist. Mr. Akintobi, thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure always. Good morning and happy new month to Nigeria.
I'm sure you are hearing us banter and rambling over these issues, but let's get started perhaps with the New Telegraph newspaper. The New Telegraph is leading with issues around security. Gunmen abduct pastor, wife orders in Kogi church, bridesmaid in Sokoto. Let me see what the writers are saying. Religious leaders should stop gathering worshippers in unsafe locations. I don't know who that is credited to. Bandits demand 150 million naira ransom on Kwara Monarch. Kebbi police foil bandits attack, recover 141 Russell livestock motorcycles. How to tackle security challenges by Tukur Gambari. Mr. Dayo.
Yes, it seems that of late, since the whole U.S. brouhaha about insecurity in Nigeria, we've scored some successes. In as much as it seems there's been a ramping up of insecurity activities, armed forces have made some successes. But here is the issue. Last week we had rescues, we had recoveries, whether they were based on actual military intervention, whether they were ransom. The point is we got the kidnapped victims back, and the euphoria was high. We were happy that our victims have been rescued, our armed forces are on the job. But why does it seem like these successes are followed up by additional increasing incidents? I have a theory that we seem to be caught up in the euphoria of the recovery and forget that that is just one part of the equation. There's still the issue of deterrence. If we are so happy that we got our victims back, how about the people who committed the crime? What is happening to them? We don't hear anything. Rescues do not occur in a vacuum. Either they negotiated with somebody and paid ransom, or they went into the forest and rescued these people by the coercive apparatus of the military. One way or another, there was an engagement between the rescuers and the abductors. So we got the kidnapped victims back. What did we do? What happened to the people who did the abductions? We didn't hear anything. Were they arrested? Were they neutralized? Have they been charged to court? Or were they just let go? Were we just so happy that we got the victims back that we didn't bother about the people who committed the crime? I put it to you that the increasing spate of insecurity, in spite of our successes, is because there is no deterrence. There is no political will to show that it's not just getting the girls or getting the kidnapped victims back that resolves the issue. We want to deter this type of behavior by letting you know that it's not acceptable. So not only will we get our victims back, but those of you who are the effrontery to carry this kind of thing out, we will deal with you. I'm not seeing that second half of the equation take place. Yes, the military is bombing one or two places. There was something in Taraba yesterday where they neutralized some people. I'm saying that banditry, they are becoming bolder and bolder and bolder because they are seeing that the worst thing that can happen is that the Nigerian state will take back its people, whether with ransom or without, and they will go scot-free. I think that needs to change, that the message needs to be passed across forcefully, that not only will we get our victims back, but we will deal with you as well in such a way that it will be a deterrent to others. I don't think there's enough disincentive at the moment to stop this kind of thing from proliferating. People are not afraid to do this anymore because they don't see any concerted effort to bring them to book. The focus is just get the victims back. But that's not enough. Getting the victims back is just the beginning. It's just one priority out of several. So that's the issue for me. I don't think we will begin to see a massive reduction in insecurity based on the current way of doing things. It needs to change. Changing a few top military brass here and there with the same modus operandi is not going to solve this problem, I don't think.
Well, you know, Mr. Akitobi, sometimes success in terms of security may be relative to our experiences as a nation. We've been to countries where the slightest, you know, concern of insecurity elicits the presence of security operatives. But that's not the case where Nigeria is concerned. We see security agents come to provide, you know, intervention after the fact instead of when it was critical, when the emergency required the evacuation of safety or a deterrence in terms of, you know, those who were causing the unrest. You know, the success that we have recorded maybe just be peculiar to our experience. Speaking of which, On the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, we have 42,000 schools still vulnerable despite $30 million Safe School funds. I wonder if you're losing count, as I have done, of the number of parliaments that have investigated the Safe School funds that came through under the Jonathan administration. But it seems as if we take 2 steps forward and then another backwards. Mr. Akitobi.
We have the governors to blame for this one because out of 36 states plus the FCT, only about 6 states have met up to the co-funding requirement of this Safe Schools initiative. And the whole idea, of course, is that funds were provided that enabled state governments to be able to take steps to protect vulnerable schools, because in the rural, many of us have a tendency to look at Nigeria through a very narrow prism. Nigeria is not all about just the cities, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Enugu, Ibadan. The majority of Lagos lives in the rural areas. And what happens is that schools are located in isolated areas where there could be far distances between a school and a settlement or a community, because it's just not possible. It's not practical or feasible to have a school in every single village or every single hamlet. And so invariably, what you see happening is that these funds have been put together to create an enabling environment for these schools to be safe, both in terms of security, in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of surveillance, in terms of providing actual security personnel in the schools, because like I said, they're quite remote and quite distant. Now, the initiative required the governors to co-fund the initiative. The governors were supposed to bring matching funds, and so far only 6 states have done so, and 30 are just twiddling their thumbs over this thing and saying, well, security is not our problem. We've been fighting for state police. You're not giving it to us. So, well, whatever comes out of it is your issue. But the governors need to recognize the fact that first and foremost, their responsibility is to the citizens of their state. Forget what the responsibilities of the federal government are. It's that same argument about, oh, it's a federal road, so I won't fix it because if I fix it, they won't reimburse my funds. But who is using those roads? It's your state, your constituencies within your state. Same thing about this school issue is that even if it is a federal government initiative, it is the people of the individual states that are directly affected. And so it becomes the responsibility of the governors. And so far they are falling down on the job with regards to this particular issue, because $30 million is a whole lot of money. If you convert that into Naira at today's rate, it's several billions that could make a substantive difference in terms of protecting these schools. That's why you see that it's open season on schools in rural areas, because they are easy, soft targets. There is very little that can be done to defend a school against a bandit attack at this point in time. We've seen a few vigilante defensive measures here and there, but by and large, they are sporadic and they are ineffective and insufficient. So what this initiative was meant to do is provide the necessary tools to keep our children safe. I saw somebody somewhere yesterday saying that the solution is to close the schools for now, close boarding schools for now. And somebody else was saying if you close boarding schools, you are killing education in areas where education is required to pull people out of poverty. So which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, so you look at it and you say, how do we resolve this issue? A solution has been provided. Money has been put aside specifically to provide security for the schools in a way that would at least, if not deter, at least provide a buffer that will provide first level protection, because our security forces are overstretched. Even if an attack is underway and you call them and say, oh, please, we're under attack, how long will it take them to get there? Before they get there, before they can mobilize? Like Bukola said earlier, our ability to be proactive and ward off these things before they happen, that ability is quite limited in Nigeria today. We are more reactive, that after it has happened is when we now get up and start running helter-skelter, which of course by then the damage has been done. Right. So I just want to put it and say the state governors should be the ones held accountable for this issue of the safe school funds not meeting up to their desired impact as of today.
Well, Mr. Akintobi, this Nigeria is next, and it's good to see you again. The lead story... Right, the lead story is, of course, same as what we've seen across the board. Gunmen hit Kogi Church, troops battle criminal gangs nationwide. Pastor, wife, several worshippers abducted, and if you look at the pattern, northwest in Kano, Sokoto, north central, you see as well. So it's almost like it's not random. The pattern is not random, but it's made to look random. But almost the same places we've seen, except that Kano is a new one. But I'm really fishing for some cherry news on the front page this morning. So I'll just give you these two. Rice farmers predict price drop. Lagos pegs bag at 57,000 naira. I'm sure that's some cherry news because we know rice is a very, very important commodity in Nigeria. And the other good story, which I'm choosing to pick out this morning, is resident doctors suspend strike, issue fresh 4-week deadline. Almost like a mixed bag, really. They suspended the strike, but they're saying you have 4 weeks to sort the issues. Mr. Akintobi, these stories are certainly something we can also look to and say, well, it's not all bad, is it?
No, it can't be all bad. I mean, Nigeria is a resilient country. We are happy people. We can bear a lot of stress and strife and carry on like life is normal. So I would say that in spite of all the challenging news that we hear, Nigerians are still trucking along like, everything's fine and dandy. So there's always a silver lining behind every cloud. I like the part about the price of rice coming down because, today being December 1, Christmas is upon us and jollof rice and chicken is our Christmas Day staple. So if the price of rice is coming down, it means many of us are not guaranteed to have that Christmas fixings on the table on Christmas Day. Lagos a long time ago invested in a rice mill. I think it's in Imota in the area of Ikorodu. And during the immediate past administration of the state, they actually launched something called Lake Rice, which when it came out, there was quite a lot of hoopla behind it. And it was meant to completely reduce, by increasing supply, it was meant to reduce the price of the commodity statewide, at least. And initially it did do that. Even though there were issues of, when it first started coming out, it was only friends of the government in power who were able to get allocations and things like that. But by and large, we started seeing it seep into the marketplace gradually. And it was good quality rice, and it was competitively priced. So I would say that generally, food inflation is coming down slowly. Or at least the numbers are saying so, even if we're not seeing it in the marketplace. So places like Lagos are taking the lead to force prices down beyond the statistics that NBS releases. If we are taking manual steps to bring prices down forcibly, like Lagos State is doing here, is fixing its price at a certain amount. And I'm sure that computed into that amount is already cost of production and profit. And it's still saying, we're going to sell it at this amount, which is probably cheaper than anything we can get on the market today. That's cherry news. It means that we have the means, governmentally and within the private sector, to adjust prices unilaterally, to make them drop and still be able to be profitable for the producers. Let's talk about the resident doctors suspending their strike. I'm happy to hear it, but I'm also sad because I know people who've passed away since this strike started. Avoidable deaths that didn't need to happen. It goes back to what Bukola was talking about earlier, that we are reactive and not proactive. Why did things have to grind to a halt to the point that doctors had to down their tools and endanger precious Nigerian lives when this thing is still going to get to the negotiating table any which way you look at it? Every single dispute between labor and government ends up on the negotiating table sooner or later. So why do we wait till later after countless lives have been lost? What they're going to go and talk about now in the next 4 weeks that they've given the deadline is the same thing that they've been talking about since, and they could have talked about last week or week before they went on the strike. So why would government take a hard line to the point of precipitating downing tools by the resident doctors in a way that has endangered Nigerian lives. Countless people have not been able to get services in the general hospitals, in the primary health care centers, the various places where, I mean, it goes back to what I said earlier. The elite in Nigeria, because we can afford private hospitals, we forget that there are people across areas of Nigeria who don't live in Lagos, don't live in Port Harcourt, don't live in Abuja, and are eking out a hard scrabble life in the rural areas and are fully dependent, almost completely dependent on government largesse and government intervention. So resident doctors are key to that. They man the general hospitals, they man the healthcare sector. When they down tools, the ordinary Nigerian has no alternative. That's why you see chemists and pharmacists and alternative medical practitioners doing a thriving business. When resident doctors are on strike, people seek out chemists, which is the most dangerous way to treat yourself or treat any ailment, is to start self-medicating or being medicated by a non-professional medical practitioner. It's very risky. So I just always have said, when two sides are battling, there's always a solution somewhere in the middle. It requires commitment, it requires patience, it requires the willingness to be flexible. Why are we so rigid? Why is government not willing to bend a little? If you look everywhere, you see issues. ASU problem, resident doctors problem, NLC problem. What does that tell us? It means that government is not flexible enough. Yes, government has competing issues. There are resources are demanded everywhere. It can't give everything to doctors. It can't give everything to teachers. It can't give everything to everybody who wants it. But it can negotiate in good faith. Explain its position that, look, this is all the money we have. We can't give it all to you, but here's how we can meet your demands, whether incrementally, installmentally, whatever the case may be. Work with us, we will work with you. But it has to take a shutdown completely and lives lost avoidably for this kind of thing to happen. It's not a good situation. I'm not happy about it.
Absolutely. Well said, Mr. Akintobi. We wish that, as you said it now, they'll listen and it won't happen again. But there are no guarantees, unfortunately. But we hope there will be a day when we look back at this moment and say, oh, remember when we used to talk like this? Those days are over. We hope that day will come in our lifetime. Mr. Akintobi, public affairs analyst, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
My pleasure always. Good morning, Nigeria. Happy New Month.
Wishing you the same. And we'll take a break. We'll come back with sweet guests. So, security, Reverend Dachomo, and the security experts will be joining us in just a moment. Stay with us.
We're definitely starting with security, and we have joining us in our Lagos studio first, Mr. Dixon Osaje, security consultant. We'll also be speaking with Pastor Ezekiel Dachomo, Reverend Dachomo, who joins us virtually on the program this morning. Good morning, Reverend, and good morning, Mr. Osaje.
Good morning, Kayode. Good morning.
Right, I'll just begin with you, Reverend, and get a sense of what the situation is now. You've been a man who's been championing the call for increased security. You've been championing the plight of Christians, particularly in your state and region. If you maybe have done some sort of retrospection, analysis of the cases, the abductions, the attacks over the past few weeks, Reverend, would you say it's getting better or worse, from where you sit, that is? Right, looks like the connection has gotten worse, but we'll return to Reverend Dachomo. He's quite popular now with championing.
Can you hear me?
Please go ahead, we can hear you now.
I can say it's getting better, because for the past 2 weeks, we have never had whether in any village somebody was killed. And this is where we are all advocating for, to live in peace with both the Muslim and the Christian. And this is what we have for these past 2 weeks. In fact, even destruction of crops. I've not come across a news of phone calls anywhere. The Fulani are calm. The Senate sent their committee on security to come for findings in Plateau State. And I happened to be there because all my aim, my target is for us to have peace for years. And it has reached a stage that I have to kneel down before my fellow Fulani Ardos, Miyeti Allah, and beg them, because they are the one to give us peace. And that is undiluted truth. We have always given them the truth, the peace that they needed. We have given them for years, and they know. I beg them on my knees, please. You know our side, we have been supplying peace to you. But on your side, you are supplying crisis to us. Why? What is the reason? And they have to raise me up by officials. I say thank you, because my primary goal is to see that the country is living in peace, nothing but peace. And that's the situation that we are inside now. We have been crying for years. For years. Nobody listened to us. Even when the issue of Gebruk, formerly known Dogonawa, they changed the name. They came with an agenda. The Islamic movement came with an agenda. They would change the name of the original place and place their own name. Our forefathers were illiterate, were full of love, thinking that let's live together, not knowing that these people have a target for land grabbing. They have a target to invent and take over the state, to take over the Middle Belt. That is the target. Our forefathers didn't know until late 2000. These things started manifesting themselves. Burning villages, striking villages. Before they come to your village, they would look for a way that they will present the matter as seems is reprisal. We didn't know. They will destroy your crops. That is the beginning. We have been living together. We gave them farms, irrigation farms to do in love. We assist them in working on their farm, and they make their money. They go back to their village, to their areas in the far north. Then when it is a dry season, they will resurface and come. We welcome them. But what then? This is what happened at the end of the day. Planning. When we say stop it, they will be angry. They will say we're interfering in their right of living. And we don't know that there was a great agenda that was moving on to take over our village, because they look at us in a dialect that we are Arnas. Even you are a Christian, you are Kafri, you are Arna. And this word has been moving. We bear it, we take it. We still show them love, but they didn't understand. You can see, because of the issue of farm issue,
right?
When they will follow you to your farm and they will kill us, we will bear with it until it reaches a stage which say, no, this thing is getting too much. Since you are not ready to stay with us, please go back. Go to your state. Leave your place, because you are coming here, you are turning your character into aggressive, into claiming of life, into claiming of land, in which, let me tell you, over 161 villages, community were displaced. In Plateau State alone.
Well, Reverend,
today they cannot go back to that village. And the neighboring village that they are living on, you will see they have been living their dwelling place where our forefather gave it to them. But they will organize themselves and invite their fellow brothers from the far north to come and assist them in doing jihad on the Christian. And there are areas, there's a place even in Manga, that place, that place they were evil themselves. They turned our church building into mosques in Manga area. That is the place when they attacked our people. Senator Gang Danton was killed at the burial ground, which they burnt people alive. They kill whom they can kill. They slaughtered whom they can slaughter. We went for mass barriers, not knowing that they used the mass barrier to bring an attack.
Reverend, this is, really sad. I've listened to you time and again, and every time I hear you speak, the pain is always fresh, the way you narrate it. I want to just, for the benefit of those who may not understand the language, what does Arna mean, just before I come to Mr. Osaje here in our studio?
Unbelievable.
Okay, we'll try to fix the connection, but let me come to Mr. Osaje. You speak the languages, or you have an understanding. Listening to Reverend Dechaman, I'm sure you've listened to him time and again. He said first, for the past 2 weeks, there have been no attacks in this region, but he's also chronicled how this has developed into what it is today. He says they seem to be out of the woods for now, but we know that North Central is not entirely out of the woods. Kwara, Kogi, and now Northwest states, Kano, Sokoto. From what he has said, can you see the pattern of his attacks?
Of course, yes. And first of all, I want to use this medium to really appreciate the Reverend for really coming out to speak and speak the bitter truths, because it marvels me when people come on air and say there's no Christian genocide in Nigeria. That's a big fat lie. Sometimes we fail to understand that human lives matters. If it doesn't touch home, you will not want to deny the fact that we have experienced Christian genocide in Nigeria. I agree with some Muslims are also being killed, but I tell you that the Christian has been so patient in this country, and I'm happy about that, because we believe in peace, and also we don't believe in attack me, I attack you, because if it has to be so, Nigeria would have been history. But what we need now is that we need a reconciliation. And this talk, genocide talk, must not die. This is the time to keep on talking about it, so that the Supreme Muslim Council, the Christian Association of Nigeria will all come together and say, hey, enough is enough. He made mention of Arne. Arne means unbeliever. You understand? That's what it meant by Arne. And we need to start watching or listening to our preachers, what they preach about Nigerians. If I'm in a church and you're telling me negatively about the Muslims, that should be checked. If you are in the mosque and you're talking negative about the Christian, that should also be checked, because we are all human beings. We are Nigerians. We are living beings. Because if we keep on preaching hatred, the government needs to start looking at the church and also start looking at the mosque. That is the preachers and the preachers and also the imams. We need to start looking at them very carefully, because most of those statements, sometimes are very insightful. When you call somebody an unbeliever, when you see him, what do you do to him? So we need to address a lot of things in this country, Kayode, and that is why I'm very happy that this talk must not die. This is the time for us to start speaking. And I'm happy for the tweet of Donald Trump. If he had not tweeted, we've not seen all this action happening. Nigerians have been crying. I've been on this studio more than 120 times since 2008. Are you with me? And we've been talking about insecurity, talking about what has been happening in Nigeria, and it seems as if nobody's listening. But it took a tweet from the President of the United States to bring everybody into action. If it's going to take more tweets from international community to make Nigeria great again, we welcome that, because we cannot continue to live like this. But so far so good. I'm impressed with the actions from the presidency, and this action speaks louder than voice, and we've seen most of the commands and also some of the security design. But I tell you that we have a long way to go in this area of fight. Like now, if you look at the belt from Kogi, from Kebbi, Kogi, down to Kwara, it has a corridor, and this corridor is where most of these criminal, passes through to go and commit these criminal activities. Let's not give them time to sleep. The problem is that we allow them to sleep. When you allow criminals to sleep, they plan, they regroup, and they attack. So let's not give them time to regroup and also plan. The president last week made mention of recruiting more men. That will not solve the problem, Kayode. If you say you want to keep on recruiting more men, these guys, they still have the ability to kill the officers and men. So for me, I've said it on many fora that for you to have an effective security strategy, don't just depend on the personnel. With just what we call force protection. Give them force protection so that they don't get killed like chickens. You can't have a soldier train so hard and die cheap. Now, the president did not even make mention of technology, effective technology, because 3 measures are present when it comes to security management. The human factor, the technological factor, and the processes. Kayode, a battalion of soldiers in this country with an appropriate technology can defeat all the terrorist groups in this country. What we need effective drones that they can use and go to these enemies then and wipe them out. So it's not about personnel. Because I can tell you, 5 soldiers can be in a base. Like we are here now, we can monitor what is happening in Sambisa. And all you just need to do, ascertain the ISR, the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance information from the drone. Then what you need to do, then you send in any deliverable you need to send there to go and wipe out these guys. So it's not about personnel. I tell you, we have the personnel, but we need more personnel, as the case may be. But let's look at having a lot of drones. And I would advise the presidency and the chief of defense staff to establish drone battalions. We don't have drone battalions. Now, the Ukraine, they have drone battalions, and that's why they are still holding strong in their defensive line. So let's establish drone battalions so we'll be able to mitigate the loss of the lives of our officers and men, because it's so painful. You have our soldiers being killed as if they're animals by this unnecessary human being. We are not even well trained as our soldiers. I can tell you that the making of a soldier is very tough. You cannot just see how I saw the videos of most of these guys on TikTok, and I would look at them and say, these are the guys killing our officers, these are the guys killing our soldiers. That tells you that there's an operational error within the army, there's a tactical error within the army, and those errors need to be addressed. And one more thing, Kayode, you see, sometimes these guys, maybe next time we're going to talk about the organogram of this terrorist group. They are very, very well structured. Right from their command, come to their intelligence network. There is no single strike these guys carry out without deploying intelligence. Before they go on any strike, they have men on ground who check if the security personnel are present, who will check what is happening within that environment, and they will communicate. The coast is clear, come and clear it. That's what we call counter-surveillance. So we need to start having an effective counter-surveillance team that will counter the surveillance of these guys. That's what we call hostile surveillance. So we need a lot of things to do. The army to establish drone battalions so that we'll be able to, fight these guys and bring them to book. The Nigerian army has the capability, I tell you. They have the capability. But they need to work on their operational strategy. Don't leave a soldier for so long in the battlefield. This error, they keep on making this error. You leave a soldier for 4 years in the battlefield. My younger brother spent 4 years in the Northeast. He was shot in 2014. He went back after recovery and he spent an additional 3 years. 4 years. How will you leave a soldier in the battlefield for 4 years? That is a tactical, that's an operational error. In fact, it's an intentional operational error. No commander should do that, because when attacks come from this enemy, from these terrorists, what the army do is that they begin to run away. They begin to withdraw. Why? Because if you don't know when you are going back home to reunite with your wife and children, I tell you, your fighting spirit will depreciate, because every battle begins from the mind. So every soldier must know when they are going to the battlefield, and they must know when they are coming back home. That is going to motivate them and give them more morale to fight this enemy of the state and wipe them out.
Well, so much to unpack from some of the things that you have said. You talked about being happy with the measures, and you've also, pointed out some of the other things that need to be done. I would like to follow up on some things, but let's bring in Reverend Achomo again. Reverend Achomo, you've been speaking in other fora where you've, queried some of the comments of the peace envoy sent to Plateau State to interact with communities and leaders, yourself, inclusive, where you queried, her response in other fora where she tagged some of the killings as reprisals. And we've had the Muslim community represented in the conversation right here on this platform a fortnight ago, where they doubled down on the nature of some of the killings in Plateau State, to be precise, as being reprisal. In fact, I recall Mr. Salis said that there are some communities in Plateau that you cannot go to, even as a Muslim, that your life would be in danger. And they also accuse the media of not reporting some incidents that trigger some of these killings. So I'd like you to respond to that part of the perception about the nature of the killings in Plateau State as being reprisal, because it's coming not just from the peace envoy alone, but from other members of the Plateau community, this time from the Muslim community in Plateau State.
What do you expect somebody that wants to take your land and take your village, your community? What do you expect him to do? He has a strategy to create a way that he will deceive the whole world, like the Hamas were doing. Sometimes they will tell a child to pretend as if he has been shot. They will decorate him with something like blood and show the whole world. Al Jazeera will carry it that Israel, yes, Israel have been killing. We can't deny that. But the propaganda that took place is they thought we are doing the same thing. And this is what is happening here. When they want to take your village, they will strategize to see how they will invoke you to make a mistake. They will provoke you to rape your woman. And nobody knows. They will destroy your crops that you have suffered. Put cows inside. When you come out, you attack in anger a cow. Then they will say they are coming for reprisal. But they will never talk about the destruction that they have done in the village. 151, what have they done? What reprisal is taking place in Adamawa, in Taraba? Is that reprisals? So if the federal government will approve and justify there is reprisal, then we have many ways of reprisal too. When you destroy my crops, have chemicals, we do not that we don't have it. We put it on our farm to avoid crisis. When their cows comes, they eat, they die. Don't let them not blame us. It's reprisal. See, Nigerian government approve reprisal. That is, then we accept it. We can do it. Not that we don't know how to destroy, to weaken them. But they have been wicked up, destroying farm crops. Even the one you brought home, they will follow and burn it down. Economically, they subject us to become slaves. And they are still building that is reprisal. Okay. I have asked the whole youth to stand for self-defense. Since this is the language that they are presenting to the whole nation that is reprisal, what have the people of... I gave this to one minister. I gave her for the reason of the genocide that they did in Gemburu. And I heard her, she was saying that she was justifying, even proud. She doesn't know she was carrying the blood, the names, the skeletons of those that are now in the grave on her hand. And she's talking to them. She doesn't know that they kill you, they nail you, they shed your blood, 501 people. It was reprisal, and she was justifying it. That woman on special senior advisor to the president, I don't blame her. It is an agenda given to her by Islamic agenda. She's speaking the mind. She was not ready, but the blood of the people whom she was saying they were killed because of reprisal, Did she know the damage the cost to Gemburo? Killing our women before the incidents of the village were tired. They didn't see peace with those that are harboring criminals in the house, targeting the Christians, humiliating them. And because of that, they become angry. They didn't say they killed them. They said move out of the village. They went and organized to come down and humiliate everybody in the village so that they will grab the land. That place they were brought from Kano as a team miners, and they enjoy the place. And they want to take over the place. Okay, the federal government should do what she can do. She should never arrest anybody that kill a cow through chemicals, because we will start keeping, because we want to avoid any problem. We will start putting chemicals on our lands. And if their cows die, we are ready for self-defense. It's not like before. Let me tell you, withdraw soldiers, you will see peace. Withdraw Nigerian army, you will see peace. Especially the security have been polluted with the absorption of the repented Boko Haram assisting, and they are the one that are giving informer. They are still with their brothers in the bush. Let me tell you, the Nigerian government hands is tight. Tinubu is saying he's going to recruit 20,000. What will be the number? If Christians are up to 2,000 in that 20,000, then we'll say they have tried. Is to absorb Muslims from all over, including visitors that came from Niger. They get them indigenous, and as citizens of Nigeria, they will be there.
All right, Reverend.
Why are they there?
If I may come in here, Reverend, apology, we're totally out of time. I can see the passion exuding from you. We had to bring you because we've had Islamic representation here. Sheikh Gumi was with us, I think, last week on his position.
Yeah. The biggest liar. The biggest destroyer. The one that collects money from federal government to compensate his people in the bush. It's another way he has made the federal government to become an ATM. The one that lies that we have bought it.
All right, Reverend. Well, Sheikh is not here to respond to the allegations. I'll just reiterating the fact that... sorry, Reverend, just reiterating the fact that this is for us to bring balance. But let's bring it to the studio as we wind down. We'll come to you to wrap up in 30 seconds. Mr. Dixon, if you can do this for us in like 1 minute. You can see a lot of passion coming in. And
I wanted him to even continue.
A lot of passion coming in and all of that. This is what happens when people feel, perhaps him from his point of view feels they are not being protected. So if you were to intervene in this kind of scenario, how should the government approach this?
Well, with speed and momentum, you know, I feel his pain, and when you see people like this speak, they have love for nation. They have love for this country. You understand? Because human lives matter, like I rightly said. For me, the government has started, you know, rolling out instructions, rolling out orders. So what the government should also be doing is that they should look at the enemy within, you know. The insider threat is what is bedeviling our country, Nigeria. And also, at this point, they need to set up a board of inquiry to examine the existence of Boko Haram and the causative factor of Boko Haram. How did they come into existence? We must not let that die. We need to find out how they came about, the founders, and also the terrorism financiers. They need to go after the terrorism financiers. I've been on this studio many times to discuss about the secret trials of these terrorism financiers, and also the list that was sent to the federal government about the terrorism financiers. Where are the names? Name them and shame them. We need to start doing a lot of things, and also look at how they get their finances from, and look out for their commanders. Because all we are doing, Jeffrey, is that we're just killing the fighters. Okay. If you keep on killing the fighters, we will not succeed. We need to go to their center of gravity, and pull them from the top down, to ensure that we make Nigeria great again. And also, I will use this medium to appreciate our brave officers and men for putting their life on the line to protect this country. Jeffrey, it's not easy for you to put your life on the line to fight for a country. And Nigeria, the only thing this government, all our soldiers and officers, is that they must respect them and ensure they don't pardon terrorists who kill our officers and men, because that will be a blatant failure on the part of government.
All right, Reverend, let's come back to as we wind up. And just the way forward. Nobody supports violence, but we saw where you're coming from, but that's what everybody's trying to avoid, an escalation. Now everybody's talking about the escalation. What's the way forward, if you can do it for us in 1 minute, sir?
The way forward is to remove Shetima. Remove Ripado. He's the security advisor. What has he been advising? All his advice is to side the Muslim perspective. If not, if he's genuine, let me tell you, all these crises have gone. He has not been advancing well. His advance is biased. And Shetima is a Muslim. The president is the Muslim. Is that not complete genocide to Christian in the political world? A complete genocide. The way forward, remove Shetima. And I stand on it, a one way forward. They are displaying Islamic agenda. They want to control the whole country. All Christians should wake up. Wake up from their slumber, says the Bible. Because these people are out to take over to the court. They will end up forcing every Christian to become a Muslim by faith, by force. We ought to stand on it. We have seen it. I've seen it. God has shown us. Can't you see the handwork that is moving towards Kwara? Can't you see what is happening?
Right.
The Kwara people kill their cow or do something, and they will turn it around to say it is reprisal. So reprisal has been approved in Nigeria. Then we are ready for reprisal. I've said we are not going to stay like this because I can't hand over my grandchildren to Islam. Because when suffering, starvation hurt them, they will go into slavery in Islam. And this is the agenda of all Islamic terrorists to take over the nation. And the question, the nation is sleeping, is sleeping, is sleeping. They have to wake up. These people that want to help the nation, they don't want to use them, but people are out with agenda to destroy Nigeria, both economically, both physically, both security-wise. They are there, calculating with the language of jihad. Jihad.
Well, quite powerful words.
That's why I'm praying the way forward. These two people must be removed and bring Nigeria. Let it be Muslim, Christian. Nigeria is for all of us. Let it be Muslim, Christian, Christian, Muslim. We are all brothers. We are all one in the nation. You
Indeed, Reverend.
Islamic agenda to control the nation. That Muslim ticket to be. I will never vote Muslim, Christian. Muslim, Christian. I want Nigeria. We should be one. That is my target. And I'm praying that they will stand and look at this thing with the common sense that Nigeria belongs to all of us, not particular people bringing evil agenda, satanic agenda to control the nation. And the nation is decaying. The moral standard is decaying.
Well, Reverend,
Muslims are also killed.
Certainly.
Christians are also killed. And they are proud to tell the world that
if I may
Muslims
come in
and
here,
Christians are killed. Now, question is the witness of the government. They cannot stop the killing, and they are kind of bragging that yes, Muslims are also killed. By who?
Well, Reverend Chomo, if I may come in here, this is a conversation we can have for the whole day, really. It's a very important one. In fact, we had to overshoot our time and again, just to accommodate this conversation. And yes, indeed, this has been a challenge for this government. You cannot sacrifice unity on the altar of political expediency. But the government, I must say, has said time and again that it is against whatever is happening. It is not supporting any sort of genocide. That has been the messaging from government. But you make very important points. And I must say again that this is for the balance. We've had the representation from the Islamic leaders also on the program. And it's important to hear all of these sides. And that's why we've had you come on the program today. We have to thank you so much. This is by no means the end of the conversation. We've been speaking with Reverend Ezekiel Chomo of Church of Christ in Nations. Thank you so much. And of course, we'll be speaking to you from time to time to get updates on the security situation there. And right here in our studio, we've had Mr. Dixon Osaje, Global Security Analyst, and MD Breeze Protection Services. Mr. Osaje, a powerful conversation.
Thank you for having me. And we need to keep on having this conversation so that we'll make our country great again, because we need to stop these killings once and for all.
Indeed.
Let's not de-escalate. We must stop the killings.
Indeed. We'll take a moment now, and when we return, still lots of issues to unpack for you right here on the show. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It's still the morning brief right here on Channels Television, and we've had quite a conversation during our first segment. We'll make progress now to another subject matter equally important. What's in a name? What's in the names on President Tinubu's ambassadorial list? Let's get an education also about, the career ambassador and the non-career ambassador. And joining us on this particular segment, we have Ambassador Joe Keshi, who joins us this morning. He's a former diplomat and a former permanent secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He joins us virtually. We also have Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi. He's a spokesperson, African Democratic Congress. Both gentlemen join us virtually on the program this morning. Before we get to the views of the opposition, let's get perhaps an education first from you, Ambassador Joe Keshi. What's the difference between a career diplomat and a non-career diplomat?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning. A career diplomat is an officer recruited into the foreign service at a relatively young age and who grows through the system, to the top of his chosen career, and who, as a preparation for the higher post, is made to serve in a number of diplomatic missions, so that when eventually he becomes an ambassador, he's already very familiar with the terrain. He has all what it takes to be a credible representative of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria or any country. On the other hand, you have the career officers, non-career officers. These are often taken from the political parties or taken from the public sector or from anywhere. And let me say that nobody is against the appointment of non-career ambassadors. In fact, a number of countries, it's a mixed bag. They appoint non-career and they appoint career officers. But where it is becoming clear that the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is being left out of this appointment. Officers of the ministry, those who have spent the last 20, 25 years of their lives, in the diplomatic service. They've been trained, they've been taken through all kinds of posting in preparation to be able to represent Nigeria credibly well. And just at the peak of their career, they are replaced, by politicians. I'm not too sure that is the right thing to do. In fact, last night I was on another channel and I suggested I made two suggestions. Number one, I said that look, if this is what we want to do with Nigeria, we could as well begin to appoint politicians as chief of staff of the military establishment, because this is exactly what is being done. But if you think that is ridiculous to start with, this is also the appointment of a number the people, who by any standard have no business being in the diplomatic service. That's how ridiculous it is. I'm comfortable with some names on the list. But the truth of the matter is that the bulk of the people on the non-career list, it's a bit, it's a bit disturbing. Are these the kind of people we want to represent Nigeria? You have people who, if justice has prevailed, and if this country has been run properly, and the rules of the game are obeyed, they actually should be cooling their heels in the walls of the prison and not being sent out as ambassadors. You have people who have governed their states. They were absolute failures. They showed no leadership when they led their states, and the governors who took over from them are struggling to repair the damage they've done to their states. Those are the kind of people you are being rewarded, you know, either because, you know, they have helped you to destroy other political parties and the rest of it. No. Look, as far back as the 1960s, when the diplomatic service was established, those who established the diplomatic service, particularly the Prime Minister, was very clear in his mind about the kind of diplomatic service he wanted for Nigeria. He wanted a very competent foreign service. He wanted an independent foreign service. He wanted officers of the foreign service to be well-trained, to be able to compete favorably with their peers all over the world. And the first generation of those recruited into the foreign service, and for a long time, met the criteria until the politicians came and started what they are doing today. And the second point I made was to appeal to the president. I hear there's another list that will come out. I don't know if it's true. I appeal, I beg the president, for goodness sake, for the sake of the officers in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs today, to please ensure that the next list contains no other names but the people from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. These officers are demoralized. Look, tomorrow somebody will accuse them of being unpatriotic. But the truth of the matter is that they are disappointed after, you know, being prepared. They've gone through, you know, the training and preparing themselves, and at the heights where they are supposed to be appointed. You now think that they are not qualified to represent the country. You have a set that have retired that have retired 2 years ago. All these officers, as Nigerians today, are very bitter, and they think that Nigeria has done it to them.
If I get you correctly, you're also saying that those who have trained and served, you know, in Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs should have rightly been appointed to even the non-career ambassadorial roles. Let's take it to Mr. Abdullahi, a member of the opposition who sort of agrees with the last bit of your comment. I've read your statement, Mr. Abdullahi, and part of it says that, you know, the names appointed on that list, you know, are a settlement of political IOUs, without quoting you copiously now. What names particularly, which names does your party have reservations with?
Be careful to analyze by getting in because I ambassadorship really when country has this person that are coming be will have ambassadors for the 2 years of an administration, and that's how we also not had ambassadors in any mission in the world. That's quite precedent. And in the issue of Nigeria, not even the civil war, to express this kind of absence in diplomatic. No less that at the time that Nigeria is facing kind of diplomatic crisis that we're seeing all over the world. Civil contacts are currently with us and are asking a lot of questions about what's going on in Nigeria. I've just seen to the interview before you was in. Been saying a lot of you that Nigeria have a voice, a room when this kind of position has been taken in other countries of the world. Now, it took you 12 years to have ambassadors, and this is the you can do. Is to seek an opportunity to settle the party members who are waiting for appointments in the last years. It's quite fortunate indeed, and the point we are making. We are particularly concerned with the appointment of Prophet Mahmoud, the immediate pastor and chairman, because when someone because that kind of appointment, like
if you can hear me,
tends to give pressure.
Your connection, the audio is not really coming through well. We've tried to endure. So maybe if you can switch things up a bit with the internet or your device, I'm sure they'll help you backstage. But let's go back to Ambassador. While we try to reconnect with Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi and get a sense of maybe those names in particular, what does this then mean? Because these names will go to the Senate. I mean, we understand that these names will naturally pass through Senate, understanding the composition. But what will then this mean for Nigeria's image, if indeed they are eventually deployed, those names you have issues with? Because some have said that for the non-career ambassadors, their job is not hard. It's just to shake hands, take pictures, go for dinner events, and all of that. So for you, how do you see this impacting the image of Nigeria internationally, particularly for those countries that were mentioned, important allies of Nigeria?
You just said something that I always like to respond to when you say that diplomats just go around and shake hands, drink coffee, and probably drink wine. Yes, we do. There's no doubt about that. But you should also remember that nobody compliments us when we burn the midnight candles, you know, and we stay in, you know, conference halls till 4 a.m. in the morning. We travel, you know, extensively, you know, to represent the country, and it carries all the risk that you can, you can imagine. So, for your information, no, diplomats do not only drink coffee or drink wine and brandy and the rest of them. They really do some hard job in terms of representing the country as best as they can. And I do not get Mr. Abdullah's, you know, what he was saying before, but I heard him talk about something about the Civil War. Look, it was the quality. It was the quality of those that Gowon appointed during the Civil War crisis, you know, during that period, and the fact that that was also the time that, you know, the country diplomatic service expanded. You cannot be claiming to want to be a leader or to be a leader, you know, within the global system, to be a spokesperson for Africa, and you do not have credible elements, people that can be respected, you know, people that foreign countries will look upon with so much great respect, because they know their pedigree. They have the history of what they've done in their respective countries. You know, so when you have people who, again, I repeat myself, if the Nigerian legal system had worked very well and there had been no, these famous join the APC and your sins are forgiven, some of those on that list shouldn't be on that list to start with. So for your information, the diplomats do a great job. They have been trained. They have been prepared. You know, I remember my first ambassador on post, you know, giving me a lot of assignments. And sometimes when they're too heavy on me and I launch a complaint, he would say to me, Joe, it's not when you become an ambassador you learn how to be an ambassador. You start learning how to be an ambassador the very day you enter the service. To be an ambassador demands a great experience, which officers in the Ministry of, you know, it required calm, it required tact, it requires so many things. You want to be, look, we are a country full of talents. And when we are sending people out, for goodness sake, we should send out our best 11. We should send out our best 11. And there are people all over the country that you can. You saw the Tribune editorial, for example, you know, the way it analyzed it and so on. And that's a very good editorial to start with. We need to be fair to all parts of the country. But for me, my major concern coming on this is to, again, appeal to the president that there are officers eminently qualified in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that the next list, if there's going to be another list, should be the names of those officers. And this debate for me will be over. Now, whatever others that have been appointed, whatever they do, well, it's the country who will suffer. You know the popular saying, okay? We've appointed our ambassadors. We have made if they go well, fine. If they don't go well, the country bears the consequences of their failure. But I maintain that officers that are in the diplomatic service should have been the first consideration before you even begin to think of politicians. And if you want to take politicians, which I'm not opposed to, and by the way, I have said it, there are a couple of names that I'm very, very comfortable with on the list of political appointees, but there are some that that I'm disturbed about.
All right, Ambassador, maybe I'll come back to you if you want to. I know that diplomats like you, Ambassador, you work with tact and diplomacy. I don't know whether you would like to mention those names, exactly the names you're not comfortable with or not. But let me take you to Mr. Abdullahi. Let's try again whether Mr. Abdullahi's network will connect better this time. All right, Mr. Abdullahi, in continuation of your thought, because we couldn't hear exactly what you were saying, so we had to come back to the ambassador. So in continuation of your thought, in addition to it, walk us through, now the president has made his decision, at least this first set, based on the constitutional powers given to him, but it's now left to the National Assembly, the Senate this time, to finally ratify or reject what the president has done. Well, the APC is in majority. What do you make, what do you see happening?
Thank you. I hope you can hear me better now.
Yes, we can hear you better now. Yes.
Okay, I mean, you said it's left for the Senate to do the necessary thing. The Senate is not going to do anything. I mean, this Senate is going to just rubber stamp the list brought by the president. I mean, I had Ambassador Keshi talk about individuals on that list who should ordinarily be in prison. That is true. Without mentioning names, we know them. We know those who have EFC cases. So when you send it, because don't forget, the Senate screening of these ambassador nominees is just the first stage. I mean, when you post them to specific countries, those countries will carry out their own screening. And given the situation that Nigeria is at the moment, they are going to screen the hell out of them. So you find yourself in a situation where some of these ambassadors, after being posted, will probably be rejected and sent back home because those countries will feel they cannot work with them. So it's not just about what we do to ourselves. It's also how we expose ourselves and make ourselves vulnerable to the rest of the world. So it's quite unfortunate what the president has done. And if it's true what Ambassador Keshi said, that there's going to be a second list. I mean, if there's going to be a second list, why don't you use the opportunity of the first list to do the best posting? Why wait for the second list to do the right thing? I mean, because if you had opportunity after 2.5 years to make an ambassadorial appointment, and this is the best you can do, and see just as an opportunity to reward political loyalists, So I was making a point earlier about the appointment of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. We take part with that. We can appoint someone who was supposed to be in trial. You point to a few studies that appoint
Mr. Abdullahi. Pardon me, sir. I'm going to have to interrupt you again. You may need to perhaps change your device again so that we can hear you better. We're beginning to have difficulty hearing you. Perhaps it's network. We'll return to Mr. Abdullahi. Let me come to you, Ambassador Keshi. Mr. Abdullahi was talking about raising concerns about a particular name, that's a former INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. I'd like you to speak to that because it seems to be coming from, different quarters, specifically because of the agency that he represented, not just the 2023 presidential elections that he conducted that turned out to be controversial, but because of the nature of INEC itself, that is supposed to be a non-partisan organization, an electoral umpire that is supposed to be biased. How does the appointment of a former INEC chairman look on a non-career ambassadorial list that sometimes, draws pull from, politicians? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, another name I'd like you to speak to, which the civil society is drawing our attention to, is that of former director of the NIA, Mr. Ayo Oke, who also had served as a Commonwealth envoy. He brings professional expertise to the room, but there are concerns that he was linked with corruption allegations back in 2017. So what are your thoughts on these two names?
Were I to advise the president, my simple advice on the former INEC chairman, who, by the way, I have heard some of his, whom I know very well, is a fine gentleman to start with. Never mind his tenure in INEC. I have no doubt that if it was a different circumstances, you know, he will certainly fit in among those that I will back any day to be an ambassador. He's intelligent, and his classmates and friends, you know, confirm that. So, and he has the demeanor, you know, the courage and you know, the mindset and the intellectual capacity to probably be. But coming so soon, immediately after he left, you know, INEC, I think the president should have just tallied a while, you know, but that's the president's prerogative to do, to make the appointment, and whatever consequences we suffer from that, or whatever criticism that is happening all over the place, I think the Villa should admit that they brought this upon them, you know, upon themselves. As regard Ambassador Ayo, okay, look, I'll tell you this. You know, I want to say this with all sincerity. Ambassador Ayoke is one of our finest officers. And this is why Ambassador Ayoke was appointed the DG NIA. Ambassador Ayoke's removal, never mind the whole noise that was made about money being stored somewhere. Every security agency stores money somewhere. I believe that Ayoke was removed as a result of conspiracy between his office, between the Villa and EFCC. Look, if you go back to what happened during that period, there is an esprit de corps, there's a synergy among security agencies. Ayoke, as DG NIA, called, I think it was Magu or somebody in EFCC, and said, look, I'm coming to explain to you why we have this money there. The man ignored him and sent his boys in to do some rapid. Listen, there's nowhere in the world where another security agency will treat another security agency like, you know, it was treated, and Ayoke lost his job. So I believe it was a conspiracy. That notwithstanding, I'll say those who know Ambassador Ayoke will tell you that he is eminently qualified to be an ambassador. The scandal notwithstanding, I sincerely hope that those who will consider, yeah, the scandal means a lot to start with, because it tarnished the image this gentleman has built over the years as one of Nigeria's finest, best officers in the diplomatic service. So if the president has now considered him, and the president thinks that he can push his appointment through, I have no problem with that. As I said before, there are some names I'm comfortable with. Look, when you look at someone like the former deputy governor of Lagos State, Pedro, whom I've met a couple of times, I think he has all what it takes to be an ambassador. When you look at Erelu Adebayo, I served on the board of UBA with Erelu Adebayo, and I would recommend her any day to any post, even to be a minister. She's sound, she's articulate, and she will make a great representative of the Federal Republic of Nigeria anywhere in the world. And, you know, but there are some that, you know, really beats me. When you have, this is a country with so many talents, with so many, look, all over the place. If the president is looking for those who really want to, there are so many officers who left the service because the appointment was not made early enough. It would have been fair to consider those people first and bring them back to the service, because they waited for 2 years, 3 years to be appointed ambassadors, and they had to retire without being made ambassadors.
Right.
For goodness sake, they should have been fair to this set of officers.
It's a lot of things together.
Political. Look,
pardon me, Ambassador.
What is Jimo Ibrahim looking for in the diplomatic service to start with? And that's like that. Does it mean that anybody who loses an election or who leaves political appointment can't do anything else but remain in government forever in Nigeria?
Well, He's a senator.
I'll tell you, if you permit me just to say a few words, let me just tell you a story. Just to tell you the difference of the kind of people and their character.
Ambassador, if you can do that in 30 seconds,
2009.
Yeah.
2009, we're looking for ambassador to go to Washington. And we approached Professor Bolaji Akinyemi. We approached Fola Adeola. These two gentlemen turned us down. Professor Akinyemi told me plainly, he said, Joe, listen, I was a foreign minister at the age of 30-something. What do you want me to go and do now? No, Joe, I can't be an ambassador at this point. Those are the kind of people I respect. And today you have failed politicians, failed governors, and they are all gladly jumping over the place like toads.
Right.
That they are going to become ambassadors, representing this country that claims to be the leader and the spokesperson of the African continent, and you are putting in people who do not even have the capacity.
Well, Ambassador, if I may come in now, so we can take Mr. Abdullahi's statements, but you've made quite important points. In fact, you've mentioned some of those names, the former INEC chairman, you've mentioned Senator Jimoh Ibrahim. But Mr. Abdullahi, what other names raise concerns for you? For some people, they've raised issues about Chifemi Fani-Kayode's name, Reno Mokri. I think the ambassador also referenced the former governor of Enugu State, Ifeanyi Ogwuanyi. So what are the names that really raise issues for you? And if the president had a chance, you might want him to review those names. If you can do that in less than 2 minutes, Mr. Abdullahi.
I hope you can hear me now. I hope it's better now.
Yes, I hope it stays this way too.
Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
It's better now. Please go ahead.
I mean, Ambassador Keshi has mentioned, I mean, apart from Professor Yakubu that we are concerned about, and also, what's his name? I mentioned the name of Jimoh Ibrahim, and who was a senator, and I mean, you know who that is. Then you mentioned Femi Fani-Kayode, my very good boss. Sometimes I wonder whether, when I saw that list and I saw him on the list, I wonder what he's doing there. But you see, like I said, I state sometimes to reduce this to individuals and personalities, but taking all together, I mean, I look at that list, only 15 of them out of 30 something are career ambassadors, and the rest are just political hangers or political jobbers who have done things for the president and one way or the other. Daughter of OG.
Oh dear, we had hoped.
Picking on her because of her age, but I'm wondering that at the time that this country needs the strongest voice in the world, that's the best we can do. It's unfortunate that that's what come to this, but it's what it is.
All right, we have to thank you so much. We wish we had more time to get some of your responses in, but this is an ongoing conversation. We'll look to the Senate, see how things play out, and of course, the president. Kola.
Well, there's more. We're not quite done yet with our discussion on the president's ambassadorial list, now controversial with so many concerns. We have joining us much later on after this break, a representative of the government who will be speaking to perhaps the reasons that informed Mr. President's choice of some of the names of the list. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's bring in Ms. Ademola Oshodi. He's a Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs and Protocol. He joins us virtually from Dakar in Senegal. Ms. Ademola, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start from where we left off. And I know those of you in the diplomatic service, you deal with a lot of tact and diplomacy. But now Nigerians have laid it bare on some of the names. I'm just going to reel out some of the names that have been raised as concerns on that list. Of course, the president has the discretion to appoint whoever he wants by Section 171 of the Constitution. It's now for the National Assembly to say, President, you were right or wrong on this one. But the question some people are asking, what was going through the mind of the president in naming these people, sending this list to the National Assembly? You work closely with him, so maybe you give an explanation, because people are questioning character, they are questioning competence, they are questioning history and all of that. They mention names like Jimo Ibrahim, Reno Mokri, Mahmoud Yakubu, Okeze Ikpeazu, Ifeanyi Ogwuanyi, Femi Fani-Kayode, and all of that. What do you make of it? How is the government responding to this?
Well, Jeffrey, thank you very much. I'm not actually representing the president or the administration. I do work with the president, but a lot of my comments are basically my own views. So let's clarify that. The president has the prerogative to hire whoever he wants based on his own interest and his own relationship with those individuals. So this is, it's basically his prerogative. We can question whoever, however. I'm pretty sure there's in every politician or any public service holder, either in the past or current, there's always something. There's always somebody's foot you stepped on, or there's always some controversial action you took that may not agree with people. And of course, you have the media, which we have a very robust media in Nigeria, and we have the opposition that would, question, especially the opposition, question anything that the administration does. So it's understandable, but it doesn't necessarily mean their comments or their views what it appears to be. In all parts of the world, the president has the right to appoint non-career and even career diplomats, including ambassadors or high commissioners. He has chosen his reasons. It could be political loyalty. It could be the national service, maybe rewarding people that serve the country. It could also be expertise in another field. It could be, for instance, people with security background, people with great relationship with the country they've been sent to, people with, in some cases, ethnic or state balancing, so ensure there's a balance, as we say, federal character in the appointment. So no one is going to find individual appointee without any issue around it. It's just not possible. Even career diplomats will have some issue. We're all humans. But the key here, Jeffrey, what we need to focus on, are they law-abiding citizens? Have they been convicted of any crime? And have they been banned or from any sort of public service? And none of these individuals are. And we have the Senate that is going to vouch or is going to verify these individuals. Whether people say, "Oh, the Senate is the rubber stamp." Well, unfortunately, we have a system of government whereby there are 3 layers of government, and they have to vet and do their job. So we should not get excited about these appointees and try to find something blemish their record. Just, "Oh, they're not bona fide." Let the courts answer that, and then and then we can take it from there. So it's really rather unfair and almost, I think, borderline libelous to start damaging people's character, and whereby they've not been convicted of any crime.
Well, you have said in some form of acknowledgement just moments ago that whether it's career or even whether it's non-career or career, people will always have issue. And speaking of issues, I'm thinking that in vetting or in consenting to this agreement through the agreement letters that will be sent as confirmation, that these names will be subjected to some form of scrutiny by the international community where they're being sent to. So what impact would this have on Nigeria's image when certain things come up, in your view?
I don't think it will be an issue. I think we are dealing with a Nigerian issue. Once we send an ambassador or ambassador designate to a country, the country will do their own vetting. And generally speaking, they approve the ambassador that's been sent to them. So it's the worst scenario. There will be a delay based on administrative or whatever reason. So that's another vetting process that will take place at the country that they're going to. We have ambassadors designated in Nigeria right now from different countries, waiting for the president to approve their papers for them to be full-fledged ambassadors or high commissioners. So it's a process, but generally speaking, most ambassador designates are honored by the countries they've sent to. So that should not be a problem. The key is, are they convicted individuals by court of law? Do they have interest against the country they've been sent to? So those are the considerations those what countries will look at, and I'm very sure the presidency will ensure that all that is clarified before they send people to places. So it's a natural process, but I understand the whole attention and all the hullabaloo about what we're going through right now with the ambassador appointments. It's been a while, it's been 2 years, but the president took his time. There's other pressing domestic issues that he has to deal with. We have to reform our economy. We have to ensure we have ambassadors to go to places where they can be funded properly. Debts have to be paid, financial debts of missions. They have to be upgraded. And regardless of the current situation with I think the American government and maybe the need right now to have people in Washington D.C., London, and etc. It's still something the president has been planning to do. If you check your recent communication, the president met with former CPC politicians and said he was still trying to dot his I's and cross his T's to ensure he has the right balance of people, political people for this ambassador role. It's just, it's natural. Ambassadors, non-career ambassadors are politicians. They are people with political backgrounds, or they have a personal relationship with the president. It's everywhere around the world, whether it's Donald Trump that puts his friends in as ambassador, or maybe in British government, Peter Mendelsohn, the guy that had the issue with Jeffrey Epstein. He was the British ambassador to the United States, and he was a close Labour Party stalwart. He was sent to Washington, D.C., and has been sent back now due to the controversy over Epstein. So you can tell the fact that, and Mendelsohn had a lot of controversy, if you know the guy, a lot of controversy over his political life. There was one thing or the other, really resigning from Parliament, resigning from Tony Blair's government, et cetera, et cetera. But he was a political appointment. I'm not saying we should send people of bad character abroad, but I'm just saying it's the nature of the beast. It has to be the discretion and the political decision of the president or heads of state.
All right, Mr. Oshodi, having looked at that list, I want you to speak to this pointedly. Is this the best we can come up with?
This is the best the president has seen for the interest of his administration and for Nigeria. I can categorically tell you that. Whether you accept it or anybody else accepts it, it is his discretion. And we'll see at the end of the day how much they achieve their goal.
And that's what the ultimate goal entirely. Pardon me. There are two different things here. Is this the best we can come up with? It's different from this is the best the president thinks. So I'm asking you, is this the best we can come up with as a nation?
This is the best. We voted for a president, and we voted for him to make his decision. This is the best the president has chosen, and this is the best that was for his interest and for his success of his administration. Yes.
So in other words, you're saying it's not the best because they're the best, but it's the best because the president has chosen them.
No. You can't. No, it's not. You don't have that subjective mind. We voted for a president. We gave him the prerogative to choose his people. You or anybody cannot say the best. Why? We are not chosen to lead this country. So we have to take the president for his word. This is the best for his administration, to make sure his administration succeeds, whether for economic or for security or for just cultural needs. He sends his people out to represent his government.
So the INEC chairman,
and I don't think we should be the one to judge
the former INEC chairman, Mr.
Your judgment of what is the best is different from mine. So how can you?
It's just a question. I wanted to get your thoughts on whether you think this is the best, and I think you've put that through. Let's speak about the former INEC chairman. I recall that during the administration of former president, late now, Muhammadu Buhari, it took about 4+ years, or even 6 years, before he even appointed Professor Tahiru Jega on the board of the governing council, rather, of University of Jos, and eventually, of course, President Buhari and President Tinubu also appointed him. So don't you think it's too soon, particularly after what has been one of the most contentious elections in Nigeria's history?
The most contentious election in Nigeria's history was the early elections from 1999, 2003, especially the election 2007 that brought in the President Yar'Adua. You remember the rioting and even the Supreme Court case that was split regarding the decision. So historically, no, 2023 was not the most controversial election in Nigerian history. So let's clarify that. But no, the election was contested, it was competitive. So that's why we had this heated politics. We had 3 major candidates that almost split the votes. So therefore, people cannot accept the decision of the electorate. And therefore, people still go on and on about the election. So no, Muhammadu Buhari, I think, did a good job. You can't look at him in the 2023 election and say, oh, his tenure was bad. What about the election before that? What about his other elections in state governments, state governors elections, and all those
totally out of time.
Middle of the administration elections that happen in around the country. So no, I think he had an exemplary service, and he should be rewarded for his time to.
My apologies. We're totally out of time. We wish we had more time with you. I think the argument is not a legal argument necessarily. It's a moral argument. For instance, somebody like Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, I agree with you. 2007 was the worst election we ever had since 1999. Seconded. Another next controversial was 2023. The reason is simple. INEC failed on its promise at a very important moment. That in itself has taken us way back in terms of confidence of citizens. And supremacy belongs to the people who elected the president. So that is the premise. So sometimes it's not +1 and 1 that works. So the government needs to understand the panoramic angle to be able to know that this is the view. But we must thank you, Ademola Oshodi, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Foreign Affairs and Protocol. Always a delight to have you on the show on your expertise. Thank you, sir. And enjoy your trip.
Thank you.